Well, well, well. You can't wrestle. So what did you do? You went out there and you started a podcast. You got that right. Ladies and gentlemen, you're listening to the We Can't Wrestle podcast. And I am Brian Pillman Jr. The We Can't Wrestle podcast is a podcast about wrestling and a bunch of guys that don't know how to do it. But I, Brian Pillman Jr., I'm very good at pro wrestling, so I don't need to start a podcast called the We Can't Wrestle podcast, but I'll gladly put my name on the brand. I'll gladly go on the line to say that the We Can't Wrestle podcast is one of the most informative, most balanced, non-biased podcasts out there. Thank you very much, and have a good listen.
You're listening to the We Can't Wrestle podcast. Now it's time for our host, Nate Manson.
Hello, wrestling fans, and welcome to episode 94 of the We Can't Wrestle podcast. Three of the five of us are here with you on this beautiful evening. Aaron is here, of course. Myself, Nate, and Archie Mitchell is here. Archie of the
What's up?
Of not only the We Can't Wrestle podcast, of the Asylum, of the WCC World Championship Customs. Archie sits on more board of directors than Bill Gates. For God's sake.
I am an admin in every group you could think of.
Well, welcome.
Pleasure to be here as always.
Welcome to the show, Archie, and welcome to the admin team of both the We Can't Wrestle Facebook group and the Asylum. We can officially say that on this week's episode.
We can officially talk about it. I was under a gag order last week. So,
but we love having you on the show. Love having the fact that you're here on a more consistent basis now. On this week's show, we're going to try something here. I've come up with 10, and we'll see how many we get done in our 2 hours. But 10, this or that, like what's better opportunities. And like I gave an example to the guys, and I'm not going to use it here, obviously, but what's better, the NWO or DX? Give me your answer, and then defend your answer. So that's what we're going to do. But before that, I want to give Archie the opportunity, because I know he has a rant that he wants to go on in this show. And
I want the listeners to understand this. I do not condone anyone losing their job. I don't feel that people should be fired unless they do a terrible job in any way, shape, or form. If you're
like Baron Corbin.
Well, that's another story. But if you're an incompetent worker, and let's just say, for instance, you work at Domino's and don't know how to deliver a pizza or make one, you shouldn't work at Domino's. The person I'm about to rant on, it was not my problem with his body of work. I think that he was a phenomenal wrestler, and I think that he was able to make a character for himself very well outside of the WWE. Zack Ryder was one of, would you say it was 25 people fired in the last couple days, Nate?
Yes. I think we're up to 27.
Yeah, and that's including producers, agents, coaches. Zack Ryder, Kurt Hawkins, who were, of course, a prominent tag team in WWE. Leo Rush from NXT and 205 Live. A lot of talented people got fired in the last few days.
Mike Chioda really surprised me. He's been there since
1989.
Yeah.
How do you hire a 30-plus worker? The Good Brothers, who are now going to go back to Japan or be in AEW next week, you never can tell.
Yeah.
And again, I didn't like hearing that these people lost their job. I wish them all the best in their future endeavors, whatever they choose to do, whether it be wrestling, movies, or in the case of Zack Ryder and Kurt Hawkins, toy collecting, because they are involved in toys the same way I am, you are, Nate, Aaron is. They buy and sell toys. They collect, they trade, they do. But over the last 3 days since he got fired, Zack Ryder has gone on a selling spree, acting like he's broke. I mean, he's doing toy breaks, which means you buy spots in a raffle, and then whatever number you get is the number that the box of toys you get. And they're $50 a spot, and you have the opportunity to win one loose Jack's BCA. Not even carded, loose. And Hornswoggle, of all people, called him out on it tonight and said, who the hell wants a $50 Jack's BCA? He's selling his gear with autographs on it for $200, $300, and $400 and more so as it goes on. And then recently, he posted up in a group a pair of Jordans that he wants to autograph that he wants $200 for. And I'm like, Zach, who stole all your money?
Yeah.
Because you've got like $300,000 invested in toys. Why do you all of a sudden need to, look, and someone made a great point to me. John Majewski of the Asylum podcast said he's trying to strike while the iron is hot. He's putting shirts on Pro Wrestling Tees and he's selling his merch so that he could, people will still remember him. And I get that. But who the hell is going to remember Zack Ryder in 6 months if he doesn't get another job in wrestling for a pair of Michael Jordans that he signed?
It doesn't even have his name on it. It has his name on it because it's an autograph, but has no connection to Zack Ryder other than his
right.
feet,
it's not like Jordan handed him these at a game one night, or like it's the Matt Cardona at Michael Jordan sneaker. You know what I mean? So all I'd like to say is, and I mean this from the bottom of my heart, fuck you, Zack Ryder, because you're shilling yourself worse than anybody else has ever done when they've lost their job in professional wrestling.
Yeah, including Virgil.
Yeah, you whore.
Including
Virgil.
So, all right. So, from the past couple of weeks of the show, here's what we've established: Zack Ryder's a douchebag. Fuck that guy.
Yes.
Ronda Rousey,
and only Zack Ryder. I did not mean that towards Kurt Hawkins. I have met Kurt Hawkins on 2 occasions. One of the sweetest men I've ever met. Cordial, talks, inviting. Is a member of the people when he comes to talk. His fans. Zack Ryder, fuck you.
Fuck you, Zack Ryder. Fuck you, Ronda Rousey.
Yes, and your forehead.
And your big fucking forehead. And fuck you, Baron Corbin, while I'm at it. And fuck you, Kenny Omega. All right, Aaron.
No, leave Kenny Omega alone.
We were just talking about ramen noodles earlier. Kenny Omega's head does look like ramen noodles.
That I'll agree with.
Fuck Chris Cruz.
Oh, yeah, fuck Chris Cruz, too. Did you see the Chris Cruz stuff, Archie?
I did, but I didn't understand all of it. I kind of got like the back end of it. What happened?
Every time somebody passes away, Chris Cruz goes on a tirade. And it's like, oh, great, now we're going to hear all the people coming out talking about how good of a guy this is and how he's going to be missed and this, that, and the other thing. Chris Cruz is a piece of shit.
Well, that should be said about a guy like Howard Finkel. I mean, I missed Howard Finkel just not being in wrestling when he was alive, let alone now that he passed away.
But it's not just Howard Finkel. It's like everybody.
No, I know, but I mean...
Except Bruno Sammartino. He was friends with Bruno Sammartino, so when Bruno Sammartino died, he put out this big... Oh, I'm so sad that Bruno Sammartino passed away. It's like, well, yeah. So
I guess he only likes legends, or in his mind, people who are legends.
Third string announcer who I'd put up there with such greats as Charlie Min and Stephanie Wyand.
Yeah, and I put a thing in his comments of just a pile of shit, and it said, I'm gonna tell my kids this was Chris Cruz. And he commented back, he was like, oh, you're so talented. So I was like, thanks. At least somebody is. And it was up for a minute, and then Billy Silverman and somebody else, I can't remember who it was, liked the shit post.
Oh my God.
And the thanks, I guess at least somebody around here is. And then all of a sudden I went back to see if anybody else had said anything, and that all the other comments were still up except the shit post. Like, he took that down.
He didn't like you getting notoriety for that.
He didn't like me trumping his ass, I guess. Fucking bitch. No. Looks like Mr. Ernst from Hey Dude. Remember Hey Dude?
Yes.
Yeah,
yes.
It's like that's fucking Chris Cruz, man.
I gotta say something real quick that bothered me a couple of weeks ago. They announced the new figures that are coming out from Mattel. And one of them is Superstar Billy Graham. And it's a great looking figure. It looks just like him. But Superstar Billy Graham over the last 10 years has buried the WWE and Vince McMahon every chance he got. And now he's cashing in on allowing them to use his likeness as a figure.
Oh, yeah. He's one of those guys that rallies against Vince and then comes crawling
Right.
back when he needs some money or
Oh,
what have you.
Vince is a piece of trash. He takes everything from his brother. He doesn't help nobody out.
Right.
He just treats us like cattle. Oh no, my kidney's gone. Vince,
And
Please, Vince.
Yeah.
I need a kidney.
I mean, and lots of things can be said about Vince McMahon, and there are times where he is a shrewd businessman, and I mean, quite frankly, there are times he is a piece of shit, but he's a shrewd businessman. But what I will say is, if you talk to anybody in the loop, if somebody that has worked there needs something, 99.9%
He goes out of
the
his way.
time, his company is going to take care of that person. Billy Graham
that?
being an example. Billy Graham, didn't he help out with Billy Graham's kidney transplant? He put Scott Hall through rehab
Multiple times.
I think he put Jake through rehab, gave him a few fucking
Right.
gallons of piss, and
I'd tell Billy Graham, go find your own fucking liver.
Look at what he's done for Jeff Hardy. How many chances he gave a guy like Jeff Hardy. And I don't mean this as a mean thing toward Jeff Hardy, but he's got demons, and Vince helps him battle them every time he works for that company or he isn't in the company.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? And you look, I understand they've got bad taste in their mouth from what Vince did to them in the 70s and 80s, but you literally took a shot at Vince McMahon when Rocky Johnson passed away at the funeral, and now you're willing to let them make you into a toy because you need a few extra bucks. Like, dude, where's your your integrity?
And that also comes down to the fact that we're talking about a business where up until let's say probably up until the WWE went public in
Right.
01 or whenever. I mean, it's a matter of, if you go back before that time, it's a business of carnies. And and that's what they're all about. They're just about taking their name, and I'm not hating. That's not what I'm saying. But it's a business of carnies. They're out there about taking their name and making a buck, and that's what they do. So they're willing to sell their principles.
And with Billy Graham, I was like, it's the syphilis. It's eating his brain. He doesn't know any better. I mean, I bet his brain's like a wet cake, like a wet angel food cake. It's just left out in the rain, all spongy, and it's like trying to pick up a wet cake. But the more I thought about it, I'm like, no, this guy's a prick. And it's like, he talks out of both sides of his mouth. He's a hypocritical human being. He sits there and tells people, be positive, believe in this, believe in that, and if somebody believes in God and Jesus and all that, I have no problem with it. I also have no problem if somebody doesn't believe in it. You know what I mean? I don't care.
Right, you're free to believe in whatever you want.
But this is the same guy that preaches all this stuff, but then goes and, like, Chris Jericho says something about him in his book, and then goes and says, Chris Jericho, I hope the flames of hell but flesh from your body. It's like, what the fuck, dude? He just stated his opinion about you and said you were overrated, which you are.
I equate Billy Graham to the same personality type as the Ultimate Warrior. Because Warrior was the same way. People can say what they want about how much they're fans of his work. Not his work, but you know what I mean. Being a fan, when I was a little kid, I liked the Ultimate Warrior when I was a little dude. But anyway, his entertainment, yes. But let's be frank and let's be honest. And whatever.
He's a horrible human being.
He was a terrible human being. He was a piece of shit. That Warrior Award is one of the biggest crocs I've ever seen in my life.
And that's just so they can keep Dana with the company so she doesn't do or say anything against them somewhere down the road.
Yeah.
That's really what it comes down to.
Yeah. Go ahead next year and name that thing the Finkel Award, because anything you ever hear about that guy.
Oh, yeah. I never heard a bad thing about Howard. He never bothered anybody. He never tried to molest one of the women. He never tried to, do anything bad to any of the guys. He didn't take drugs. Howard Finkel... You put up that post about Vicky Guerrero saying, and thank you for going with Eddie when he passed, and I was like, wow, I didn't even know Howard Finkel did that.
Yeah. Well, and Howard never would have told anybody,
He doesn't have any kids.
Mm-hmm. The WWE superstars were his kids. They basically grew up with him,
Who is he willing his gigantic porn collection to, though?
Me and Kyle. We lay claim.
'Cause I always heard that Howard Finkel had the biggest porn collection of any professional wrestling personality.
And I know our listeners got to see our posts in the Facebook group, so they already kind of know our opinions and stuff. But like I think all of us have said, all of us being in the 30, 40-year-old range, Howard Finkel was part of the soundtrack of my childhood, the soundtrack of my wrestling fandom. And yeah, I mean, we did want to touch on that a little bit.
I can remember a few years back when CM Punk won the world title at Survivor Series. I was there live, and Howard Finkel announced him, and Howard Finkel also said "and new," and I got chills because I thought back to Hogan, Warrior, Savage, Flair. It didn't matter who was the match. It could have been Jeff Jarrett versus X-Pac, and knowing he was announcing it meant the match was going to be out of this world. You know what I mean? It didn't matter who it was.
And even some of the goofy shit they had him doing, like the Attitude Era and stuff. He was always a team player. He was always entertaining. Like when they did the stuff with him and Trish and Lillian. What was that? SummerSlam. I think it was SummerSlam 02. Was it, Aaron?
I think so.
When he's like,
my wiener.
Yeah, if I could see your, I'd like to see your puppies if you could see my wiener.
Wiener. And there's a moment that a lot of people don't talk about, and it's because I don't think a lot of people realize what they were seeing when they saw it. And it's WrestleMania 15. When Howard Finkel introduces Gorilla Monsoon.
He gets choked up.
Yeah, and it's the last appearance of Gorilla Monsoon that I know of.
It is.
And it's Howard Finkel announcing the guy that had been in that company longer than him. You know what I mean? And I know I know Finkel was Vince's first employee, but you know what I mean? Like, It's like, okay, that's something that you don't fake. You know what I mean? And Finkel knew, looking at Gorilla Monsoon, this is probably the last time that anybody's going to see this guy, and he got to be the person to introduce him. And
he took pride in his work. He put his heart in his work. It didn't matter who he was announcing, but when it was someone he was close to, he made it as special as possible. You know, they played a video of him at the Hall of Fame when he announced himself, and when he said the words "and new" and "I am the new," everyone tries to copy it, and no one can get it down pat. There will never be anybody else besides Howard Finkel.
Nope, absolutely not. Rest in peace, Finkus Maximus, as I said yesterday, because I always remember that too. Finkel in a toga from WrestleMania 9.
Yep.
So let's, unless you guys have anything else you want to cover, maybe we'll start these What's Betters.
Well, don't drop everything.
Archie and Aaron do not know what I'm going to throw at them here, so... And we'll see.
Oh, no, I know. I snuck in your house yesterday and read your notes, so I know exactly what you're going to ask us.
Damn it, not again! So, guys, and of course I have to have an opinion, so I'll throw my opinion in, too, on each of these. But my first question is, what's better? I guess this one's a who's better, Shawn Michaels or Bret Hart?
Are you going to say who answers first?
It's up to you, Aaron. You want to go first or second?
Okay. Well, Nate, I'm going to say this. We'll try this first one, but so we don't talk over each other, because that frustrates me. Nate will get to pick each question who goes first.
Very well.
Okay.
But I'll go first this time, and I will say that I think Bret Hart is better than Shawn Michaels.
And why is
that? Because how do I want to say it? I think Bret is better all around than Shawn Michaels, and I've seen Shawn Michaels have some bad matches, and I know that sounds crazy, but I've seen Shawn have bad matches because Shawn's gotten in his own way, and Shawn has been unprofessional in some of his matches, and I've never seen Bret be unprofessional and selfish. Shawn Michaels at times is unprofessional and selfish.
Okay.
And that's just my opinion on it. And plus, I think when I look at Shawn Michaels and I look at Bret Hart, if I'm not a professional wrestling fan, and I look at in his prime Bret Hart and in his prime Shawn Michaels, I think Bret Hart looks like he could kick somebody's ass more than Shawn Michaels could.
Kick Vince's ass.
And Bret works the style. Bret works the style that I like more than Shawn does. That's why.
Archie?
Well, I'm going to disagree with Aaron here, and I have to say I've always felt that Shawn Michaels was the better of the two. I understand Aaron's last point that Bret did wrestle a different style. He knew how to build up and then kick it into that high gear for that last 5 or 6 minutes. My problem with Bret is that it always felt like the same match, no matter who he was fighting, big, small, fat, skinny. It was always the same match, minus a backbreaker if he couldn't get the guy up, to land that last backbreaker before he dropped the elbow and put the sharpshooter on. Shawn changed up his style with the Rockers being a tag team specialist, then being the sexy boy with Sensational Sherry, to then being a face and then flip-flopping here and there. I prefer Shawn more. And I understand what you're saying. Yes, unprofessional at times. He would always break character if he had to, like with Vader in their match and, doing stupid shit like that. But that was young, stupid Shawn Michaels. When he came back from the back surgery and not sure if he was going to wrestle again, he changed things up. He became much more mature. And he wrestled a different style again. And was helping to put guys over, too. I mean, the matches with Jericho, the matches with John Cena, Shelton Benjamin, Rey Mysterio. I just think that Shawn did more to put people over than Bret did. Don't get me wrong. Bret knew how to put somebody over even when he was still beating them. Like with 1, 2, 3 Kid on Raw. That match was all Sean Waltman, but then Bret still won. So it still put Shawn over. But I think that Shawn, now in his later days, coaching in NXT and passing things along to these younger guys, that's why I love Shawn and I prefer Shawn more, because Bret seems very bitter about the way that his career ended, and he has all rights to be. Fuck Bill Goldberg for smacking him in the head with that boot. But Bret just seems very bitter towards a lot of the things that have happened to him and hasn't yet to got over them, even though his life has flourished now. And I just see that Shawn loves wrestling still, or maybe Bret is just there to be a critiquer and say, it's Seth Rollins' fault or this guy sucks or whatever.
And you kind of, and again, I was asking you guys the questions, and then, like I said, I wrote my thoughts down too, but I kind of echo, I think you and I are on the same page as far as this goes, Archie, in that Aaron knows going way back, because, he's known me his whole life, not my whole life, but his whole life. I've always been a big Bret fan, and I've always been a big Shawn fan. But as Aaron also knows, I'm a bigger Shawn fan. And one of the reasons is kind of to what you said, and what I wrote down here was evolved. Shawn Michaels,
right.
Shawn Michaels, I think the reason I would say he had the edge over Bret is that as his career went on, he evolved more than Bret did. Bret, and that's not a knock on Bret.
No,
what Bret did was superb, but Shawn had the ability to adapt, I think, to situations better, and I think he evolved as a wrestler, as a character, and as a person better than Bret did. And that's just my opinion, so I pick Shawn. Aaron, do you want to counter any of that, or are you good on it?
Well, I just want to say that, guys, don't be embarrassed. Not everybody's right all the time. It's okay. But I'll stick to my opinion. And sometimes, and I'm not knocking Shawn, okay? Because that guy is a dick,
I know.
Okay? And I love it. like if you want to see that the old Shawn Michaels is still in there, like the old Shawn Michaels still exists, go watch his match with Hulk Hogan.
Yeah. Oh, the old Shawn Michaels. The old Shawn Michaels is entertaining as fuck. Can I just say?
Yeah.
Can I just say nobody knows Canada like I knows Canada.
Oh, and the funny part is like Brett even talks about that, how Shawn humped the maple leaf, humped the Canadian flag, and they're talking on that thing with Jim Ross, and Brett says he's like yeah, then you came out there and you humped the flag. He's like that pissed him off, man. he's like they don't like the fact that you screwed me, but they really fucking hate you for that.
Right.
That's why you can't go back there. Like, they hate you.
Eventually, in 100 years, Brett will die, but that flag will still be there, and people will still go, Shawn Michaels did that.
Still humps the flag. But yeah, like I said, I like Dickhead Shawn Michaels and everything like that, but I just think I think Brett is the more entertaining. I know it's crazy to say, but I like this innate. Like you said, you've known me all my life. That style that Brett works, that's the style that I like. And that's why I'll say Brett.
Well, and that's the beauty of. That's one of the beauties, and I think one of the things that attracts people like us to the wrestling business. That's the beauty of the wrestling business is it's art. Art is subjective. Some guys are going to like Macho Man, and some guys are going to like Hulk Hogan, and that's the beauty of it, And
shout out to Josh Blevins, the biggest Hulk Hogan fan there is.
Biggest Hulk Hogan mark, brother. I want to
see. I
want to ask Josh to make me a Hogan magnet, just so he has to do it.
See, where I'd rather watch, say like a Dean Malenko fight William Regal.
Well, yeah.
They would rather watch
Rey Mysterio and Eddie Guerrero.
Rey Mysterio and Eddie Guerrero have like a lucha style match.
Yes.
That's the difference. That's like the difference between me and Nate. We both like both styles, but I prefer based technical, and Nate prefers flashy.
Well, I mean, look at today's product for a quick second. I'm sure we all watch Raw on fast forward when we're watching it in
yes,
DVR.
I do, because I have a live show where I have to talk about it.
Right. But even if you didn't, you would still be fast forwarding through it because it's crap right now. But there's always that one match, no matter whether it's mat based or luchador style, where it's going to stop you and make you go, "Oh, that's good." Mm-hmm. Like my inlet to ECW the first time I turned it on, and it was like 1995, was 2 Cold Scorpio versus Dean Malenko, and that match made me a fan instantly of ECW. Even though I knew who both guys were, I went, "Wow, what is?" They just went 40 minutes.
Yeah, ECW was letting them put it all out there. Yeah,
this was an hour show, and they let them go 40 minutes. They didn't care about anybody else getting on a match on or anything like that. They wanted these 2 guys to groundbreak the business, and they did. 2 weeks later, in comes Eddie Guerrero, and they gave them the whole hour.
Yeah.
So it's like, wow. So it depends. But see, that was the great thing about Eddie. It didn't matter who he was in the ring with. He could adjust. So, like you say, we like both styles, but we prefer one over the other. If you want to watch Eddie Guerrero, Dean Malenko, Chris Benoit, you're getting both of those matches at once. You're not just getting one style.
Absolutely. And yeah, I mean, and that's just it. It's like I said, it's art. Art is subjective. So a couple of these are probably going to be quick answers because don't necessarily have to. Some of these don't require a lot of elaboration. It's just more of opinion. So the next one I have for you guys is a belt question.
Okay.
And I'll let Archie go first this time. Archie, Winged Eagle or Big Gold?
Winged Eagle all the way. I love both belts, but the Big Gold belt has such a tarnished history because it was originally the Dome Globed NWA World Heavyweight title, and then it had to be changed to the Big Gold belt. So right there was that spurt in history of, we don't want to be associated with the NWA anymore. We got the Big Gold belt now. And then, you got Flair leaves, so now they got to bring out the new WCW World Heavyweight title because Flair owns the Big Gold belt. That didn't happen with the Winged Eagle. Guys who won that title kept it with prestige. No one walked onto another show with the Winged Eagle, even though Vince was afraid Brett was going to do that when, he was leaving WCW. You know, the Winged Eagle, dating back to, you know, when it was first introduced, it makes me think of memories like Hogan and Savage, Hogan and Warrior, Warrior holding up both the Intercontinental and the World title at WrestleMania 6 when I became a fan. Bret Hart winning his first from Ric Flair in Canada, you know, on a live show of all places, not even on television.
Right.
You know, I have so many memories that when they brought out that Attitude Big Eagle belt, I was like, no, I don't want this. I want the Winged Eagle.
So my follow-up question to that, and I'll ask Aaron the same when he answers, but so you go with Winged Eagle. Who do you identify the most with the Winged Eagle belt? When you think of that belt, who's the first wrestler that comes to your brain?
I used to be a mark for him when I was a kid. As I got older, I became a mark for him again in WCW because of the NWO. I'm not a fan of his anymore, and it's not about the racism. I just think he's overstayed his welcome and should have kind of backed off and been an ambassador. Mm-hmm. But of course, the Winged Eagle is associated to me with Hulk Hogan.
Okay. Now, Aaron, I pose the same question to you. Winged Eagle, belt-wise, which one do you like better, the Winged Eagle or the big gold belt?
Winged Eagle.
All right. Who do you oh, go ahead.
I was just saying a lot of the same reasons that Archie said, and it's just I think that belt has more. It's not my favorite belt, okay, but of the two, I would pick that one, just because there was a time when the big gold belt. That's what they literally called it.
Yeah.
The big gold belt.
Or that for a period of time, it was the WCW International Championship.
See, that's better than the big gold belt. But anyway, like, everything about that title started great. Like, when Flair had it, you know, it was like the first belt that I know of where some guy was like, this belt's custom made for me. You know what I mean?
Right.
And that was cool. But over time, everything just became convoluted, and all the history in quotation marks of it just got watered down when it's switching every week and fucking whatever. But you never had that with the Winged Eagle, because by the time WWF got to the point where, you know, it's going to be changing every week, and it's going to be 6 guys in one match for everything, it was already gone. You know what I mean?
Right.
So, if that wouldn't have happened, you might still be saying the same thing about the Winged Eagle that Archie was saying about the Big Gold, that, everything about it doesn't matter anymore, but it kind of got put to pasture before Crash TV started, you know?
Yeah.
So, that's why I think that's a better belt in my mind. I mean, personally, my favorite championship is the old NWA belt, but that's okay.
The Dome Globe?
Yeah.
Yeah, mine too.
Who do you identify the Winged Eagle with? When you think of the belt, Aaron, who do you think of immediately?
Bret Hart.
Another good choice.
We are all in agreement.
He's my...
Oh, go ahead.
He's... I almost said he's my favorite guy that ever held it, but he's probably my second favorite guy on my list of like top 5 favorite wrestlers that's ever held it. And the only reason I'd put him over Flair is that Bret had, like, you know, obviously more time with it.
So we are all in agreement.
Flair's Winged Eagle run was fucked.
No, he didn't have a bad run with the Winged Eagle. It's just the way
he had a bad run in the WWF. Looking back on it, he had a bad run in the WWF. That first time he was there, people talk about like WCW mismanaging people. Ric Flair was pretty mismanaged when he went to the WWF, in my opinion.
After WrestleMania 8. I will disagree with you from August of 91 until WrestleMania 8, he had a great run in the WWF. After that, yes, it went to shit. It got silly. But that's what is it? August to April, so that 6 months is one of the best runs in wrestling ever. I mean, he comes in immediately. He's feuding with Piper. They have a great feud. It's the real world champion gimmick. That's a great gimmick. He wins the fucking Royal Rumble and wins the title, which everybody will agree is the greatest Royal Rumble ever.
Yeah,
and him and Savage have a great feud, and then have one of the best matches ever at WrestleMania 8. And then, like I said,
pushed down the card,
yes,
for no reason.
And like I said, after that, I would agree with you that it went to shit. But that first 6 months of his WWF run was fucking amazing.
Can I add something to my my statement about the big gold belt? I mean, no. I know I okay.
Go ahead.
I said when I think of the Winged Eagle, I have memories of matches as a kid, as an adult, up until they got rid of it. Honestly and truthfully, the big gold belt, if it wasn't around Flair, my only memories are Rick Rude getting injured in Japan by Sting and never being able to wrestle again because they were fighting for, at that time, it was known as the WCW International Heavyweight title. And Sid Vicious breaking his leg because he jumped off the second rope in a fatal four-way with Scott Steiner. That's what I imagine when I think of the big gold belt, because that's what they did to it. And like Aaron said, it got convoluted and thrown, like it was thrown around like a prop, because that's what Bischoff and Vince Russo thought belts were. They're props that the person holds. No, there's something somebody wants.
They symbolize that this is the top guy in our company.
Well, the New York Yankees don't consider any of their trophies props. The New York Giants don't consider the 2 Super Bowls they won in the late 90s and early 2000s as a prop. They didn't beat 17 teams to get that trophy to say, "Oh, look at this beautiful prop we have." Mm-hmm. That's their championship. They honor it, So to think that anything is a prop is sucky,
And my problem with the Big Eagle is the fact that they call it the Big Eagle, because you know what that sounds like to me? Sounds like a fucking grocery store. Doesn't it?
It does.
Like it's like, oh man, I'm gonna go pick up some Coke at the Big Eagle. I'll be back. That's just what it sounds like to me.
I will agree. We are all in agreement. The Winged Eagle is also my favorite of the two. And just quickly, the wrestler that I associate for some reason, don't know why, but when I think of that belt, the first wrestler that comes to my mind is Randy Savage. I think that
he's a pimp.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. But it's just I picture him wearing that belt around his waist with the during the Mega Powers era, and that's the first image that comes to my mind when I think of that belt. All right, so now this one's going to be fun. I think, like I said, some of them may have longer answers, some shorter. All right, guys. And Aaron, you go first on this one because Archie went first last time. Aaron, Papa Shango or The Godfather?
The Godfather? Because he'd be pimping hoes nationwide.
All right, very simple.
And The Godfather equals fun. Like when that guy came out, like even his music would hit, and you'd be like, "Okay, this is gonna be fun."
Yeah, it might not be a great match.
Even if the hoes that he brings out might be a fucking wreck up from the neck up.
Yeah, they were bad. Some of them were bad.
This is gonna be fun. You know what I mean? Because Charles Wright as a dude is fucking entertaining as fuck. Like that dude is fun. And it was a fun gimmick, and it was just amazing. Like, the guy himself is just a fun-loving dude, and I like that gimmick, too, because it took a long time for him to get there, but they finally gave that guy, that loyal motherfucker, they finally gave him something that was just, they were like, you know what, Charles? Just go out there and be you, man. Go out there and be you.
Yeah.
And that might be the one thing that, and I know he's not a popular person. He's not even popular with me, okay? But that might be one thing that Vince Russo doesn't get enough credit for. is saying, why don't we just let this guy go out and be him? You know what I mean? And maybe Jim Ross had something to do with it too, but Vince Russo was there when a lot of these guys started being able to just go out there and just be themselves. You know what I mean? Charles Wright is a fun-loving pimp, and it was entertaining. And it has one of my favorite things ever, and it's Michael Cole explaining the feud between The Godfather and Viscera. You know what it is? Viscera wins The Godfather's hose. Okay.
Mm-hmm. Was that the beginning of the sex machine, the world's largest sex machine?
No.
No,
he was still just.
Yeah,
he was still dressing like a hefty bag when this was going on.
Yeah, this was during the garbage bag contacts phase.
But Michael Cole is explaining this feud. And see, Godfather, he's coming out and he's happy and he's dancing with his hose. But when Viscera comes out, he's like yelling at him and telling him to get in the ring and shut the fuck up and all this. And Michael Cole goes, "You understand what's going on here, King? You understand what's going on here? Godfather is a nice pimp. Viscera is a mean pimp." That's how he describes the feud. And it always makes me laugh whenever I hear it. And I, like I said, I just really enjoy it. And Charles Wright is one of my favorite people. I like Papa Shango. I even like Kama. But Godfather's the best.
Archie?
I'm going to keep it short and sweet and say I agree with everything that Aaron just said. Charles Wright was a genius. He played every character he ever got to perfection. Supreme Fighting Machine, Papa Shango, Militant Black, Mustafa. And the funny thing about the Godfather character is he went from being Mustafa, this, you guys are being racist and only see black people as one thing. But then he was being the stereotypical pimp.
He was being Huggy Bear. He was being Huggy Bear, yes.
Right.
Yeah, but there's also something funny. Like he was not to interrupt. He was on the Dark Side of the Rainbow All for All.
Yep.
And said on there, he was like, "There's nothing I hate more than a pimp." He was like, "I used to go to the." He's like, because he ran.
Yeah, I bitch slapped.
And he was like, "You don't know how many pimps I've bitch slapped in my life." He's like, "I'd go to the bar and be like, any motherfucking pimps in here?" Somebody'd be like, "I'm a pimp," and he's like, "I would jack that motherfucker right in the face." Like, I hate nothing more than a fucking pimp.
No, I seeing him still dressed in the Godfather gear.
Yeah, because it's not the Godfather isn't a gimmick.
Right, he really is like that.
You
and
know?
then he's talking about his home life, and his wife's like, "We needed that $75,000. How couldn't you win the brothel?" And he's like, "I it was a real fight. I didn't plan on losing." And I'm just sitting there going, "Wow, he really had those problems."
Yeah, he was the world's nicest pimp.
So yeah, I go with the Godfather. Papa Shango was amazing. And I heard, and I'm sure you guys have too, read the stories that they were trying to bring Papa Shango back during the Attitude Era and be a more venomous, scary character. I just think that Papa Shango was any monster heel that you then take away from what they are changes the whole character. Like, the Boogeyman could have been something scary, but the fact that they made him eat worms and bite Jillian's face off made him a comedy routine. Yeah. Papa Shango, having the Ultimate Warrior spew the black stuff out of his mouth and it falling on his face when obviously there was somebody off camera probably spilling it on his head. You know what I mean?
It's one of the only times, or it's like the only time Warrior ever wore a jacket.
Right.
To an interview.
You know,
so how fake is that? You know, he's wearing a jacket, so obviously it's rigged up with something to make him.
So they turned it into something that it shouldn't have been. They're doing it in AEW right now with Lance Archer and Jake Hager too. Those guys should not be speaking. They have mouthpieces for those reasons. They've got Jake Roberts and Chris Jericho to talk for them. You want a monster to be a devil? You want him to be the biggest monster he can be? Don't let him speak.
Right, absolutely.
You know?
Yeah.
Papa Shango should have eventually evolved to having a manager or someone do his speaking for him, or just gave a look into the camera and did his voodoo. But the Godfather, on the other hand, dude, when that man grabbed a mic, it didn't matter what he said; it was gold.
Right. And well, it's like to your point. There's a reason that the Undertaker character had Paul Bearer. Paul Bearer talked, and all the Undertaker did was at the end of the promo said, "Rest in peace."
Right.
And
exactly.
He's the heel, the evil heel or baby face or whatever he was, is just the exclamation point at the end of the promo.
Right.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, I have to go Godfather based strictly on how he was booked. But where I will disagree with Aaron, I don't think anybody helped that character get over. I think the Godfather, that Charles Wright went out there a couple of times with a live mic, did his act, and then they went, okay, it's getting over. I think we just have to roll with it and see what he's going to do next.
I'm not saying Vince Russo got him over. I'm just saying that and I'm not even saying it was Vince Russo. What I'm just saying is somebody at that point was like, why are we
giving this
guy? Yeah, why are we giving this guy a gimmick? He is a gimmick. You know what I mean? Like him as a human being, you're a fucking gimmick. Just go out there and be you. The
only time they ruined him for me is when they tried to keep him with D'Lo Brown, and D'Lo Brown came out with the pimp outfit on too, but it didn't quite fit the same way. It was longer and baggier, and they started to make them into like a comedy routine again. And I was like, no, he doesn't need a tag team partner. He's got the hose. That's all he needs.
Well, he was a junior pimp.
Yeah, but I mean, come on.
Well, I'm going to agree with you guys both. It is the Godfather. So here's one that might be a little tougher. We may have a little more debate about this one. So, Archie?
Yes.
Matt Hardy or Jeff Hardy?
Neither. Lita. If I got to pick somebody from Team Extreme, it's going to be Amy Dumas.
Now, God damn it.
Dude, I have never been a Hardy Boys fan. I've never been a Hardy Boys fan. They were jobbers in the early 90s, and it was Jeff Harvey or whatever they called him at first. Harvey. Yeah, and and then they started to get steam because Michael P.S. Hayes became their manager, and then they joined the Brood, and then they didn't join the Brood. And in my opinion, they're great athletes, but they're kind of more performers because it's a lot more jumping and doing. Edge, Christian, and the Dudley Boys made the TLC matches for me. All Jeff Hardy and Matt Hardy did was fly through tables. So yeah, neither. I can't pick between them because I don't like either one.
A succinct and honest answer from Mr. Mitchell. Aaron, what's yours?
I'll start off by saying I do agree with the fact that Lita was amazing and still is.
Definitely.
But at that time in the WWE, WWF, whatever you want to call it, everybody's talking about Trish Stratus. I was a Lita guy because Trish looked like she'd be all high maintenance and fucking want to go to like nice restaurants and shit. Lita looks like she'd just let you go to Fazoli's and do some shit. You know what I mean? Like,
I was just say, Lita looked like she'd be like, "All right, rallies and anal, that's fine."
Yeah, let's do it. You know,
we'll get a cheeseburger after. Let's go to the room.
Yeah.
Trish will be like, "I want lobster."
I'm glad my wife doesn't listen to this show. All right.
But if I had to pick one of them, from a purely entertainment standpoint, and one that's shown me that they have more range and they're more of a talented person, I'd say Matt.
I agree.
Jeff's a phenomenal talent, okay? Jeff Hardy is a once-in-a-lifetime entertainer. And it's when the bell rings, okay? That guy does fantastic, amazing things. But it's when the bell rings. When the bell is not ringing, and it's not in between the ropes, or, I mean, Jeff also does shit outside of the ring, you know what I mean? When it's not the athletic performance of it, Jeff's boring.
I agree.
He's a boring talent, okay? But all around, it's Matt for days. Matt can do whatever the fuck you want Matt to do.
Matt can even teleport.
Huh?
Matt can even teleport.
Yeah. Fuck
Thanks
that.
to Vanguard 1.
But I'm just saying, like, when Jeff Hardy decides to retire, Jeff Hardy will retire, and you won't hear from Jeff Hardy anymore until he goes in the WWE Hall of Fame. When Matt decides to retire, Matt will still be working somewhere.
Yeah, he'll be.
And if he's not, whoever doesn't hire the guy is an idiot.
I agree.
In my opinion, I think WWE letting Matt Hardy leave was fucking stupid.
All right, we just said they took the cuffs off the Godfather because they saw how good he was doing. You saw what Matt Hardy was doing in TNA, and you said, we need to bring them back because they're hot commodities, but then you didn't let him do what he was doing in TNA.
And that's what I'm saying. Like, that's not Matt Hardy's fault, though.
No, I'm saying it's WWE's fault. You gave us a watered-down, broken Matt Hardy. It was Woken. You put him with Bray Wyatt instead of letting him feud with Bray Wyatt, which is what everybody wanted. And then you basically pimped him out to Randy Orton in his last match. You know?
And then what AEW did wrong with it, and I didn't watch this. I didn't see it. I watched AEW this week. I did. I watched every single wrestling show other than SmackDown, obviously, because
it's on,
I didn't watch SmackDown yet because it was on today, and I was watching Schitt's Creek. But what AEW seems to me, from what I'm hearing, is doing wrong with the Broken Matt character is they're doing it in the building.
Right.
Like, if you're going to do that Broken Matt Hardy character, that's fine. I don't give a shit if something's crazy and off the wall. I know people complain about it, but at the end of the day, just fucking watch it. And if you don't like it, don't watch it.
Right.
You know what I mean? So, I don't have a problem if Matt Hardy teleports. I don't give a shit. I'm just watching it to be entertained. But
in the arena, it was
also
corny.
Don't do it in the arena. You know,
it was corny as hell.
And have Tony Schiavone being like, "Is he teleporting? What's going on? Am I seeing what I think I'm seeing?" Don't do that.
Right. Right.
In my opinion.
And you're right. I mean, I went off on it on the show, so I'm not going to elaborate here, but that was fucking stupid.
No,
but anyway,
I don't listen to your show.
I agree.
I do.
Thanks for this.
I only listen to things I'm on.
Thanks for this.
Because I listen to it while we're doing it.
Thanks for this.
Nate, you know that.
Asshole.
Nate, you know I don't listen.
I know. Aaron doesn't even listen to this after we've recorded it. He doesn't listen.
Yeah, I don't want to hear my own voice.
I agree, Matt Hardy. Because I just think that Matt Hardy is all around. Like, and I'm not. Oh shit. Jeff is
Matt Hardy version 1.
Yes.
Jeff is one of the greatest fucking gimmicks in the history of professional wrestling.
Him calling his followers MFers was like the best thing ever.
Matt Hardy version 1's better than Broken Matt.
Yes.
All the little Matt
V1!
Little Matt facts and all that shit.
Matt doesn't eat broccoli. When I would see things like that had nothing to do with the Matt doesn't eat broccoli. Matt has never read a comic book in his life. Like, what?
Yeah, it's fucking fantastic.
Well, gentlemen, we are going to take our break here in the middle of the show. When we come back, we will have more of these What Is Betters here in the We Can't Wrestle podcast. And we'll be right back after this.
Hey, this is the national treasure and the real world's champion, Nick Aldis. And just when you thought that every possible wrestling podcast name in the world was taken, Nate comes in with a clinch with the We Can't Wrestle podcast. Based on Nate's unbelievable level of praise for me, I would go ahead and say that Nate sounds like a knowledgeable, smart, trustworthy human being, and his expertise should be lauded. and appreciated by all of the listeners of the We Can't Wrestle podcast.
All right, wrestling fans, welcome back to the We Can't Wrestle podcast, episode 94 going on here. And I hear, as Scott Hall would say, the music from your favorite adult film movie. Because we have an invasion of sorts here in the We Can't Wrestle podcast. Aaron and I are here. Archie is here. We've been talking what's better. But we have been invaded by someone from the Asylum Wrestling podcast. Mr. David Gold has joined us. David,
the inmates are running the asylum.
Well, I heard porn, so I figured, I better get on. So.
Well, we were talking about Howard Finkel's porn.
You got to get on to get off.
Oh, yeah. I can't get Pornhub Premium anymore, though. I've used all my free trials.
Aren't they giving it away for free right now during this whole virus thing?
Only a 7-day free trial, and I've used all my extra emails.
Oh. David was pulling his best Mick Foley impression trying to get more free trials.
He was pulling something, but it wasn't Mick Foley.
I hear if you pull it more than twice, you're playing with it, but hey.
Yeah.
He was pulling his Chris Cruz.
Shameless plug time. As everybody knows, when we come back from the break, it's always shameless plug time. I want to encourage everyone to listen to the Asylum Wrestling podcast. This week's show had some interesting conversation with David, Magic, and Nick Francis and myself. As I always plug on the show, check that one out. Join the Asylum on Facebook.
And I will say this. I am not somebody that will plug or promote or tell somebody to listen to something that I haven't myself. And I say give it a listen. It's fantastic.
Give it a listen.
And make sure you guys join the Asylum.
I appreciate that, Aaron.
Make sure you guys join the Asylum, because when we reach 3,000 members, if we could do it before May is over, we are going to tell them, David, what are we giving away if we reach 3,000 members?
No, it's a made-to-order belt, any belt of your choice. So, I mean, that's a pretty damn good free prize if I do say so myself.
Definitely.
Not very many people give away free belts.
No.
So.
I don't know that anybody does, really.
I don't know many people who are giving away that much free, let alone a belt. You know what I mean?
How many listens do we have, Nate?
I don't know. I'd have to look it up. Leave me alone.
Well, is it over 800?
Is it? Yes.
Okay,
nice.
Well, when we get to 1,000, we're going to give out free email accounts so people can get 7 days of Pornhub.
I need to
David's going like, I got to listen to it over and over again.
Listen to this under different names 200 times so I can get 7 days of free Pornhub.
Good gimmick.
By the way, it's not that impressive. But anyway.
And of course, shameless plug for World Championship Customs as well. And I want to let everybody know.
It's all right.
I want to let everybody know that within the next couple of weeks, we're going to have another contest coming up in the We Can't Wrestle Facebook group. And one of the, actually a number of the prizes in that are going to be some Archie Mitchell customs that he has provided me.
And some of my favorite I've ever made, I think, because they were I was laughing as I was doing them. Mainly one of them, because Nate knows I kept sending him pictures, and it just kept getting better and better.
Yes, sir. So we will reveal that coming up very soon in the We Can't Wrestle Facebook group. Is there anything else I need to plug, for Christ's sake? Am I doing enough?
How about my $1 million fink that I'm staring at right now? Yeah. What about that?
What did you just say?
My $1 million fink. All right, there's a story behind
That's what you call
I'll
it?
send you a picture.
I call mine.
Do you want me to tell the story, or do you
I call
want to
mine
tell it?
Andy.
So basically, Archie made me a Howard Finkel Hasbro, right?
Oh,
and
that's
it was,
cool.
of course, with the $1 Million Man body, right? Because it fits, has the suit, whatever the case may be. He covers the lapels up with, you can correct me if I'm wrong, Archie, a black putty, right? Or a black, like a black putty. And the black putty fell off, and Archie goes, "Oh no, I'll fix it. And I go, "You know what? Hell no. It looks fucking cool." Now he's the $1 million fink.
Right, because the gold is coming through, and the dollar signs, and
yeah. So he's a $1 million fink now.
But mind you, I will argue this point every day of my life until I die. He's had it 2 years, and this didn't happen immediately. It happened like a year later.
Oh, it happened over time, but I don't want it fixed now because it looks
I know.
cool.
I no longer use the black putty on the lapels anymore. I sand down the $1 million logos and then repaint and refinish and all that.
Well,
I've learned from my mistakes.
I've officially changed Andy's name. I'm now going to call him the $1 Million Fink.
I'd like to plug that in World Championship Customs, we're doing a custom contest in the next couple of weeks, starting this Monday. And everybody is going to be doing a WrestleMania-themed match. For instance, like we have some of the best customizers like Scott Burnett and Daniel Ariolo, who's from the Asylum, and a bunch of other great guys. And just like for instance, like if it were David going against Nate and they would have drawn a match, one of the matches that was being drawn was Ricky Steamboat versus Macho Man Randy Savage from WrestleMania 3. So David would be making Ricky Steamboat and Nate would be making Macho Man.
And Nate's
Have
Macho
you guys
Man.
seen Toy Story 4? Have any of you guys seen Toy Story 4?
Yes.
Not yet.
Okay, there's a character called Forky. That's how my customs would look.
Damn it! You stole my fucking joke.
Well, that's what you fucking get for bringing me on then.
So, but we got a lot of great customizers in there. I'm happy to be on board with the Asylum. It is a breath of fresh air to be with friends that are actually friends and I can talk to and shoot the shit with on a daily basis and make me laugh. So, and of course, being here with the We Can't Wrestle podcast, when Nate does offer the next contest, Nate, if it's okay with you, I'd like to add a prize.
Oh, absolutely.
To that. Anyone who wins on like a certain click or whatever it is, how you're going to give it away, if it's a second or a third prize or whatever, can pick a custom that they'd like made to order from myself.
Thank you, good sir. We appreciate that.
So,
That sounds like a nice prize.
Definitely.
Interesting.
The Asylum, the We Can't Wrestle podcast, World Championship Customs. We're building a bit of an empire here, guys.
Pornhub. No.
Pornhub with them emails. Thanks, Aaron, for contributing.
You're welcome.
All right, so we are.
I got ideas.
We are.
I'm an ideas guy.
I'm an idea.
I don't do any of the work. Definitely
an ideas guy.
Spout the idea and you do it. That's how it works around here.
It's the best. Work smarter, not harder.
Yeah, I'm a delegator.
Let's see what you did there, Archie. Work smarter, but not harder. Oh,
Oh.
That's what she said. Oh.
How much commission is Pornhub going to have to pay me? I'm liking this. All right.
Yeah.
So we're playing What's Better, and I informed David during the break what the deal was with the game. We have a few more that we're going to play in our last segment here tonight, and the first one I will give you guys, and we'll give David the first crack at it, because we also discussed we're going to present our case without interrupting each other, Mr. Gold. So you'll get to have the floor until you say the floor is seceded. What's better, Hell in a Cell or the Elimination Chamber?
Oh, shit.
That's a really good question.
That's a tough one. I'm going to go with Hell in a Cell, though, all day, because I've seen two of the best Hell in a Cells in history pretty much back-to-back. HBK, Undertaker, Mankind, Undertaker. Both freaking amazing matches. The bumps were amazing. And I would caution anyone that would say Elimination Chamber, because, honestly, I mean, there's been a couple decent ones, but the only really good one was the first one, in my opinion. So I would go with Hell in the Cell, all because of just participants involved, and the bumps that HBK and Mankind took were just freaking amazing. Now, modern day Hell in the Cells, they kind of stink.
The last great Hell in a Cell match was Edge and Undertaker at SummerSlam 08, I think.
I agree.
All right, Archie.
Now, Shane and Taker was decent, too. That was decent, but it wasn't.
I'll give a nod to the Usos and New Day, too, for their tag team Hell in a Cell. That happened like in the last couple of years. That was pretty good, but I agree with David. It has become very PG-friendly in the new era.
Isn't it red now?
That was just for the Fiend one, I believe. I think.
No, I think it's red permanently.
Oh, is it? Oh,
I think the last couple have been red.
That's
yeah,
a terrible
it has.
idea.
You know what else I liked? The Punjabi prison. That was fucking awesome, too. Remember the Punjabi prison?
I just like saying the name.
What?
Yeah.
Punjabi prison match. I like to say it the way that the guy.
I saw the
called
Poontang prison, but that was on Pornhub.
Well, no, I was Aaron. God damn it! I was just about. I was just about to say I called my ex-wife my Punani prison. All right. So anyway.
Oh shit! All right.
Archie, what is your? Are you agreeing with Mr. Gold on this one?
I am. I'll make this the first Elimination Chamber was amazing. I had a chance to go see that live, and my grandma passed away the day before, so I couldn't go anymore. But I'm not trying to be a sob story or anything. But Shawn Michaels winning the first Elimination Chamber was amazing, and one of the best stories to ever happen in wrestling. But yeah, the Elimination Chamber is pretty much just first two guys get in, next guy comes in. Oh, we put somebody through a pod, and then okay, the match is over. And I think what really kind of scuzzed that match up for me was the whole December to dismember for ECW when Bobby Lashley won the ECW title in it. Hell in a Cell, though, is historic. Mankind versus Undertaker, Mankind versus Shawn Michaels, Shane versus Undertaker. Even D-Generation X versus Vince, Shane, and Big Show was still pretty damn good in that Hell in a Cell. But yeah, I think the Elimination Chamber has become very cartoony, whereas Hell in a Cell still can be blood and guts if it has to, because how can you stop it?
Right. Aaron?
I'd say that I like Hell in a Cell better than the Elimination Chamber. There's been some good Elimination Chamber matches and whatnot, but I think the reason I'd put Hell in a Cell over it is that until recently, which I don't watch a lot of the recent stuff, which is a known thing, which I try. I'm not going to lie. I try. But sometimes shit just happens that I can't anymore. But the reason I put Hell in a Cell over the Elimination Chamber is because I prefer when it's going to be people locked in something that it's just two guys, When you start adding people to it and shit, it waters it down. Yes. It makes it less than what it is. Like a prime example, and Archie, I think we talked about it last week, the 6-man one they did.
That was horrible.
Yeah, it was horrible because they put 6 fucking guys in it. It didn't work.
Anything with 6 guys is horrible. Sorry.
Yeah, I could name a few things, but
do you know that keep from it to Pornhub?
I'm sorry, I had to.
The girls never showed up. The girls never showed up.
Now I'm actually glad you ran out of emails, David.
David was going down the wrong rabbit hole on Pornhub.
I saw stuff now, so I could be superhuman. Sorry, Aaron, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
It's all right. If it's funny, I don't give a shit. But yeah, just like I said, I just think I look back at memories of me, like in my mind, not memories of me, like I've never been in Hell in a Cell, obviously. But I'm just saying, like, my thoughts, like, I think of, like, Shawn, Undertaker, and all that shit, and, like, what was it, Triple H and The Undertaker, when Shawn refereed it? That was Hell in a Cell, right? Yep. Those guys, like, leaving together, that's a fond memory, too, because Nate and I watched that, and we got completely trashed when we watched that. That was a fun night. But, I'd say Hell in a Cell over Elimination Chamber.
And I agree with all three of you guys. I think the Elimination Chamber, actually, I kind of agree with David in that the only one that really stands out in my mind is the first one, because that was one of those matches that lent itself to a certain moment, as opposed to something you can bring back over and over and over again. Over the years, it has become convoluted. I absolutely hate tag team Elimination Chamber matches.
It makes no sense. Now you got 12 people fighting each other.
But you know what also made the first one? RVD really made that first one special too.
He did.
Yes, he did.
Yes, he did. Absolutely. Him.
Like aesthetically, the Elimination Chamber is an amazing looking structure. Like, it's a badass looking thing.
Well, so was that thing TNA had, but it was stupid. That escape thing or whatever the hell it was.
How the hell were you supposed to get out of that thing?
I wouldn't say the Elimination Chamber's stupid.
No,
I just don't think it's over Hell in a Cell.
Am I the only one that liked the WCW ones? You know, the
triple cage?
The Tower of
not
Doom.
just the triple cage. Yeah, the triple cage is stacked, and then they had the 2 rings in the cage. I love those.
Well, War Games is
War
phenomenal.
Games?
Yeah, War Games, you can't. There's no beating War Games.
What was the triple stacked one they did at Halloween Havoc?
Tower of Doom.
That was trash.
It was a trash match, but the structure was amazing.
Well, no, but it was a trash match because of what the storyline and the rules were. I mean, it made you okay. You start at the top to work your way down, but if you get down into the next area of the cage, the guys that you were fighting in that part of the cage can't follow you back down until you're at the bottom. What? So we're just going to tell grown men,
are we
you
talking
stay
about?
here.
Are we talking about
Dungeon
the one? Okay, I thought we were talking about the one with DDP, Jeff Jarrett, and David.
No,
Arquette.
that was the Ready to Rumble cage match.
Okay.
Yeah, no, we're talking about the one. Didn't the one that we're talking about have like the electric chair in it?
No, that was Abdullah the Butcher.
The Chamber. That was Chamber of Horrors.
Yeah,
I think they only did that twice. The Chamber of Horrors match.
There were 2 Tower of Dooms. The first one was, I believe, in '88, and that involved Kevin Sullivan, Dr. Death, Steve Williams, Ronnie Garvin. Anyway, and then the other one was that crazy one they did with Hogan and Savage against the Dungeon of Doom.
Again, they had their face paint, and Luger was in that too. Yeah.
Right, and I mean, you're telling Zeus and the Ultimate Solution, no, you stay in this part of the cage till they get to the bottom, so I can't just run down there and beat them up right now.
Right.
And go ahead, Dave.
Trivia question: what was the Ultimate Solution's original name?
The Final Solution, but they
and
found
then
out
somebody
that
was like, "Hey,
somebody."
I'm just letting you guys know.
Ironically, someone in the Turner office was Jewish and was like, "Hey,
like
no, I think
they turned on the History Channel at the wrong time."
Dave Penzer was like, "Hey, can I interrupt for a minute?"
Yeah. You're doing the wrong thing here.
You're doing the wrong thing.
But I mean, like the way they introduced Zeus again, which again that goes back to what we talked about Hogan reliving his glory days in WWF. But 8 guys couldn't beat Hulk Hogan and Randy Savage because Lex Luger decided to turn. I mean that was stupidity.
Ludicrous.
But it's besides the point. Hell in a Cell all the way.
Yeah.
All right. So the next one that I will present to you, gentlemen, is actually a triple threat here, and we're going modern products. So, Aaron, this is good luck for you.
Okay.
All right, so I am going to break down the Shield, and gentlemen, I'm going to say, is it Rollins, Ambrose, or Roman Reigns? What's better?
So wait, before Aaron starts, you want to know which one was better out of the 3?
Yeah, which one you prefer out of the 3 of these guys? Rollins, Ambrose, and Roman. And Aaron, you go first.
Seth Rollins.
All right.
I just think he's the better worker and the better talker and just all around better athlete out of all of them. That would be my answer.
Mr. Mitchell?
I look at the 3 of them as the WWE seeing them as the second coming of Austin, Rock, and Triple H. Dean Ambrose being Austin, Roman Reigns being The Rock, and Seth Rollins being Triple H. And in my opinion, only Seth Rollins stepped up and actually proved that he could be a Triple H type of badass and, evolve with his character as time went on. So I would go with Seth Rollins because for the last 3 years of his career, Dean Ambrose seemed very stale and like he didn't like anything they were giving him. And Roman Reigns, God bless him, I'm so happy that he was able to beat leukemia again and go through remission and get healthy. But I don't like Roman Reigns, the wrestler, one bit. I think that he's watered down and forced down our throats way too much. So I go with Seth Rollins as well.
David?
I'm going to be the devil's advocate here and say that I believe that we're not talking about their singles runs. So I'm going to go with the group as itself when it first started and during the couple years when they were the biggest thing in the WWE at the time, other than CM Punk. and Daniel Bryan, I'm going to go with Ambrose because not only did he have that badass, quiet character, not taking into account how successful Rollins has been outside of them, I'm going to go as a group whole. Ambrose was the best for me.
And I actually agree with you, David. Out of the three of them, and I love Seth Rollins. I have been a Seth Rollins mark since he was Tyler Black in Ring of Honor.
Wrestling Society X.
Yes, an amazing talent. And Roman gets shit on because of the push he got. Roman Reigns is much better than Smark fans give him credit for.
Roman Reigns deserved the push he got. Roman Reigns, if you're gonna draw a professional wrestler from scratch, it would look like Roman Reigns.
Yeah, it was the push but it was the way that the push was given, and the lack of organicness of it that hurt him. But
he's the Kevin Nash of his era.
The reason I say Ambrose is I think that Dean Ambrose has the charisma. Dean Ambrose is a good worker. He's not a great worker, but he's a good worker. So if I'm thinking about who has entertained me the most, it's Dean Ambrose. And that is, I guess I'm kind of including his AEW stuff because he's one of the best things of that shit show. That got better. It has gotten better, and I've admitted that on We Can't Wrestle Live. It is getting better every week. It started as a shit show, but he was one of the glaring positives of that show when it started. So, and although WWE gave him some garbage as far as storylines or gimmick or what have you, to me, he always did the best he could with it, and he let his natural personality come out in a lot of it. And I just think overall, out of the three of them, he's the better. Rollins is the better wrestler, bell to bell, but Ambrose is the better package deal, I guess, is my opinion.
Yeah, he's like a Brian Pillman mixed with Stone Cold. That's why I love him so much.
Can I interject now?
Sure.
For a moment? Aaron. This is where I will say my piece on both Ambrose and Roman. Ambrose got the United States title a few months after he got there, and he defended it all of 2 times for a 6-month title reign. Maybe it was the way that he was booked, but in my opinion, his character was a little bit on the lazy side at times, and he just kind of depended on the group because Roman was the monster and Seth being the workhorse, and it was just like, okay, there's Dean to get the pin and drop them with a DDT. On the second side with Roman, though, we just watched The Fiend versus John Cena at WrestleMania in that Funhouse match, and they threw a crack at John Cena because he never turned heel like Hogan and became like an NWO type guy. They were afraid to turn Cena. In the same regard, they were afraid to turn Roman heel. And I'm not saying that he needs to be a devilish heel who grabs a knife and puts it to somebody's throat and tries to kill them. But he does not have to be the guy that said suffer and succotash.
Yeah, well, yes,
you know what I mean?
Absolutely.
Technically, Roman was a heel, though. I want to point that out.
In the Shield, yes, but he never. Why couldn't him and the Usos have turned the Bloodline into a heel faction of Samoans who were pissed off by the way their family were treated in the company? Because let's forget The Rock. Peter Maivia and the Wild Samoans never really got anything that great in their careers. Neither did the Head Shrinkers. They could have played off that. You know what I mean? You know
what they could do? I don't mean to interrupt. Sorry.
No, go ahead. I'm just saying.
They could do with Roman Reigns what they wanted to do or tried to do with Kevin Nash before he left.
Yeah.
They don't need to turn Roman Reigns full heel. Roman Reigns should just come out there and be like, look, those of you that cheered me and supported me, I appreciate it.
Right.
I'm thankful for it. Everybody else, fuck off.
Right.
I don't need you.
He beat The Undertaker.
People are still buying my shit. I don't need you people.
He beat The Undertaker
properly. Just get him with Samoa Joe, and then that would be a good Roman Reigns, Uso, Samoa Joe.
Yeah. But
I agree.
You let him beat The Undertaker. He walks out and goes, "It's my yard now." That would have been the perfect time to turn him heel. They were booing him like crazy. Okay?
But at the same token, we can all agree to disagree. But at the same token, I will tell you that you're saying that Ambrose was a lazy character. I don't think that's the case.
I didn't say
Ambrose
that.
was more of
No, I said that.
No,
Archie said Ambrose was lazy. Lazy character. Not lazy as an individual, but he was
not at all.
lazy character. And I disagree. I don't think that's how they booked him at all. They booked him as the badass, secretive guy of the group. And yes, he only defended the U.S. belt twice, but that's because 90% of their matches was all three of them, or whatever the case may be. And they were booked as, they were booked that way. And that's why I feel like he didn't defend it that often. And he didn't need to.
I just feel that the Shield as a whole, if they were going to continue to bring them back like they did with DX, but in such a fast time. I mean, how many Shield reunions were there? 3 in the last 5 years because they kept bringing them back together. Why did you split them up to begin with then?
Well, that's the big fault with modern booking.
Right.
Yeah,
and that started during the Attitude Era. It's like, well, an angle or something that would have normally taken a year, 2 years, or whatever, it's just 6 months now. It's 4 months. It's pay-per-view to pay-per-view. So yeah, that gimmick was definitely
Dean Ambrose.
It was definitely a casualty of modern booking.
Before we go on to the next thing, can I say one thing about Dean Ambrose?
Yes.
And this is high praise from me. And I don't even think AEW has really scratched the surface with it. If somebody would just allow Dean Ambrose to be, or Jon Moxley, whatever you want to call him now, to be what he wanted to be, I think Dean Ambrose, Jon Moxley has the potential to be, and you guys can tell me if I'm off, whatever, on this, of this era of wrestling, or whatever you want to call it. He could be the Roddy Piper of his era if he was allowed to be.
I agree 1,000%. Roddy Piper, Brian Pillman, mixed all in the bunch. Super crazy, but also funny, also good in the ring, so on and so forth. Because Roddy Piper was always kind of crazy, but also at the same token, not too crazy. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, it was just a certain level. It was like, okay, this guy, he can go bananas, but it's not like Brian Pillman, I'm holding a gun, Austin's breaking in my house crazy.
Right.
You know?
Yeah. And see, where I think Ambrose would be, like, Ambrose, I don't want to see Ambrose wrestle every week. Or Jon Moxley wrestle every week. I don't want to see him wrestle every week. If Roddy Piper in his time wrestled every single week on every single show, you would have got tired of it. Because Roddy was fine in the ring, but Roddy wasn't fucking Ric Flair, and he wasn't Randy Savage, and he wasn't fucking Tito Santana. He was a brawler and had a very basic.
And it was a shit talking that sold the match. So you
needed
3 weeks of shit talking.
His ability was Mike. Piper's hit. I agree.
1,000%. Even the feud with Brett, when he said, and it was a bologna sandwich, but I liked it. Thank you, Mrs. Hart.
Yeah.
You know, it was like that led to that match being amazing.
Yeah, and I think Dean Ambrose in the ring in small doses is fantastic. But at the end of the day, Dean Ambrose has the same match a lot. So if you do it all the time, it gets stale. You know?
Jon Moxley was a deathmatch wrestler for the early part of his career. And I'm not saying that he needs to do that again. But they had something cooking between him and Mick Foley when he was still in FCW, where he was telling Mick Foley, it's your fault that I have these kind of matches. They never capitalized on that feud and to show us what he could have done against Foley on the mic and in the ring.
Can you imagine Moxley in ECW?
Oh my God.
Imagine that? Wow. Like,
I saw Jon Moxley, and Nate probably doesn't even remember, but he was there. We saw Jon Moxley wrestle at a fucking armory in Lima, and it was fantastic.
Yes.
And it was years before he wound up.
So to Aaron's credit of saying Jon Moxley has the same match a lot, yes, he does, but that's because they won't let him have a different match. That's where I feel it's lazy booking. If you give that guy the keys and say drive, he'll drive. But if you tell him sit in the back seat and take a nap, he's going to sit in the back seat and take a nap because he knows they won't let him do anything.
Or have a dumpster mattress match with Kenny fucking Omega. But anyway.
I don't care what you say, that match was amazing. I loved every part of that match that they had, him and Omega.
I hated it.
You just don't like Omega.
You hate Omega.
But this show isn't about the modern product.
All right.
Nate, let me ask you a question.
brought it up, bitch.
Nate.
I'm editing
if
out,
Kenny
bitch.
Omega
Mark
had a 5-star classic against Shawn Michaels, would you give him credit, or would you say it was all HBK?
Shawn Michaels wrestled with a ramen noodle broom. Yes. Jazz hands.
Which HBK is it, though? Is it Lost to Smile HBK, or is it...
It wouldn't matter because he'd be 74,000 times the performer that Kenny Omega is anyway.
Have you seen his matches with Okada?
Yes, thank you, Okada. Because
so
I've also seen his matches with an Invisible Man, a 9-year-old girl, pissing on the business that he's making money doing, making wrestling. Look
I don't see it that
stupid.
way. I don't see it that way.
Kenny Omega's not the first guy.
I didn't say he was the first guy.
Kenny Omega's not the first guy to have a match with a 9-year-old girl.
Hold on. Jerry Lawler
He's just the first guy to tape it.
Jerry Lawler did too, I know.
Jerry Lawler did, but he didn't film it.
But if you... I don't want to go into this now.
We're going off the rails, so we'll stop. I'm sorry. I'll behave.
I hate that fucking guy. I
think Art Barr had a couple too, didn't he?
Maybe. Maybe a couple few.
The juicer.
I hate that guy. I just fucking hate him. Everything about him.
You sound like Robin Hood Men in Tights, where he's like, oh, I hate that guy.
I hate that guy.
I have a...
Something tells me.
I have a mole.
Something tells me, David, that if we ever told Nate, dude, we just scored you an interview with Kenny Omega, he would tell us to go fuck ourselves.
Yes, he would. He would go, with whom?
With whom?
Is there going to be a 9-year-old girl holding
right. Is the Invisible Man going to be on the interview too?
I would probably do it just to do like 3...
To tell him off.
Yeah, just 3 minutes of me like, hi Kenny, hi Nate. And then I put him on mute, bitch, for 5 minutes and then hang up on him.
By the way, at the ending, Kenny, is there anything you'd like to promote after all that?
Yeah. Here's Archie Mitchell with World Championship Customs. David Gold, would you like to talk about the Asylum? All right. So the next one that I have for you guys is... This is going to be fun, I think. Because there may be about a bunch of negative in this. I don't know. Goldberg or the Ultimate Warrior?
Oh, Jesus Christ.
Can I go first?
Yeah. I knew what I was doing.
Last two. I'm going to set this one out.
I knew what I was doing when I wrote that down. Mr. Gold, you go first.
Yeah, no.
Neither.
I said that for the Hardys. He asked us Jeff or Matt. I said neither. I won't do that this time.
How dare you talk about Matt that way? Anyway.
Like, is this going to be like who we prefer or who's worse?
Yeah, it's up to you guys. I'm just.
Is it about
it's who's better?
As a human being, or
I mean, the question, Aaron, is what's better. So,
for me, it's I know this is gonna Nate. After what we said when we weren't recording about the Ultimate Warrior, guys, tune into After Dark for the podcast to hear what we said about the Ultimate Warrior. For me, it is the Warrior is better of the two. Goldberg has so many blemishes in the world of professional wrestling, in my opinion, from hurting Bret Hart, the horrible match with The Undertaker in Saudi Arabia last year, beating The Fiend for the title just so they wouldn't boo Roman for taking the title from The Fiend at Mania, and then Roman didn't show up. That shitbag of a match he had with Braun Strowman at WrestleMania, where all they did was trade finishers. Him talking out against wrestling dozens of times before he signed with the WWE, then leaving WWE and shitting on Triple H, and then coming back to sign with them because he was getting that Saudi Arabia money. To even now, he lost the title, and his exact words in an interview was, I have no more dates left. I don't want to resign. So that means you used them for all you could and you're done. on the other hand, with the Ultimate Warrior, his time before WrestleMania 6 and, a little while after WrestleMania 6, matches with Hogan, Slaughter, Macho Man, even when he returned and was, involved in the feud with Ahmed Johnson, Shawn Michaels against Camp Cornette, I just have more fond memories than the Ultimate Warrior, and I can honestly say that outside of him being a bad human being, as a wrestler, I did love him at one point, and I enjoyed watching him.
David?
If you're
welcome to the party, pal.
Ultimate Warrior up until WrestleMania 7, I would say the Ultimate Warrior. If you're asking me who was better between when the Ultimate Warrior came back and squashed Triple H after taking a pedigree, or the Ultimate Warrior against Hogan and Halloween Havoc, I would say Goldberg. Goldberg. But if you're going to ask me who has 5,000 figures and 20 million shirts and beat Hogan for the belt, certainly the Ultimate Warrior has a better legacy. But I will argue all day long, up and down, and I'll get to my answer. I apologize. This is long-winded because I really don't want to pick either of them. But Goldberg, during his early part of his career, I would argue that he was so hot and his streak was so amazing, and WCW fucked that up so bad that that's not Goldberg's fault.
How do you fuck up giving someone a 2.5-year run of undefeatedness? I mean, yeah, he lost the match, but I mean,
lose it by getting tased.
Yeah, he got beat because someone cheated. That was the right way to end it. How else were you going to beat Goldberg?
I'm sorry, Archie. I disagree. That was a shitty way to do it. They could have done it a lot better, and it could have been against somebody that needed the rub. And anyway, nonetheless, it shouldn't have been Nash. Sorry.
I agree with that.
Shouldn't have been Nash, and it shouldn't have been a taser with Hall. It should have been someone who needed the rub and someone working their way up. I could name an array of guys that deserved that push that could have beat Goldberg.
You know who I would have had beat Goldberg? You know who I would have beat Goldberg?
What's that?
You know who I would have beat Goldberg?
Who's that?
And I would have made it a gimmick that this guy is the most undeserving stumble into ending an undefeated streak motherfucker ever. I would have had Beefcake beat Goldberg.
Oh, Jesus. Would he be the big bad booty daddy when he beat him? Or
the booty man?
The booty man.
Well, he would have joined. Who do you have him as a tag team with? His Booty Beef?
Oh, Brutus Beefcake got hit with toxic sludge and formed into two different people. But it was his gimmicks, and he was Brutus Beefcake and the Booty Man, and then they teamed, and they're Booty Beef.
Nice. Well, sorry, guys. I went around like a roller coaster bend.
No, go ahead.
But Beefcake could have been like, I ended Mr. Perfect streak, and I ended Goldberg streak, and I didn't deserve neither of them. Anyway, go ahead. Sorry.
See that. They would probably do something like that, like putting the belt on Arquette. So, I mean, I could see something like that. But I will say that this is a tough answer if you do the variations of their careers, but you have to go Warrior just because of the legacy. And he is a shitty human being. I don't know if you guys watch his videos or whatever. And I know he tried to make amends before he passed away, and that's where that Warrior Award came from and stuff like that. But if you've seen some of the shit he said and some of the shit he's done...
David, earlier in the show before you joined us...
We already talked about that.
I actually completely did a nice wet diarrhea shit on the Warrior Award. That I hate it. They should now call it the Finkel Award and honor a real man for that.
Oh, yeah, somebody who flew with somebody's body just because he cared and then called somebody else, and was the only person that called. That's a human being. I agree. Warrior was a shitty person, and he didn't show up for events over money. He didn't care about his fans. So, look, if we're going to go human being, I'm picking Goldberg all day. If you're going to go legacy, unfortunately, Warrior has it. And I'm off my soapbox.
And Aaron, did you abstain from this one? Did I hear that at the beginning? You abstained from this one?
I think we hyped Aaron up with what we were saying, so he's got some words now.
Yes, probably.
Well, I mean, I was going to kind of say the same thing that David said, that if you're going to go off the human being, the person, Goldberg's not a bad dude. You know?
No, he's a businessman.
He's an asshole.
He's a businessman.
I've seen him do things for children, which I've always heard Warrior was a prick about. I also know that Goldberg does a lot for the Humane Society, like animals. Like, I like dogs and cats and shit, and I hate people that abuse animals, and Warrior or Goldberg does a lot for those. And to me, Warrior's just a shitty human being. He said shitty things. He said terrible things about people that choose different lifestyles than he has. I've heard him say terrible, hateful things about, like, just... I don't like the Ultimate Warrior. I don't like him. I hate him. I don't want to say I'm glad he's not around, because I wouldn't wish that on anybody's family, but if I have to choose off of just wrestling, I guess the Ultimate Warrior. But it's like asking me, do you want to shoot me do you want me to shoot you in the left foot or the right foot? It's like, I'd prefer you to shoot me in neither of them. But I'd rather turn right the rest of my life, so just shoot me in the other foot. You know, it's...
Good way to put it.
I don't like either.
Like, do you like diarrhea or do you like diarrhea? It's like...
Would you like Taco Bell diarrhea or Buffalo Wild Wings diarrhea? What would you prefer?
Yeah, it's like,
or dad?
It's like, do you want your diarrhea in your pants or on the carpet?
Would you like
I'd rather it on the carpet.
Would you like the syphilis or the gonorrhea? Which one would you prefer?
Would you like the cake with acid or death? Death, please.
Death, please.
The cake is
We're all out of cake.
So just death.
But Goldberg's mom would be like, do you want some cake?
All right, so the consensus of the We Can't Wrestle podcast is Goldberg or Ultimate Warrior, we choose death. Okay. Now, that being said, this may or may not be the last one, because we've got about 20 minutes left in the broadcast here. So this one is about promotions, gentlemen. This is the first one I brought up about promotions. Do you prefer Mid-South Wrestling or World-Class Championship Wrestling? And Aaron, I'm giving you this one first.
Go with somebody else first.
Mark for edit. There we go. All right. Archie, World-Class Championship Wrestling or Mid-South Wrestling?
I'm gonna choose World Class Championship Wrestling. I like the Von Erichs. I like the Freebirds. But I also have to choose World Class Championship Wrestling because I've never really watched Mid-South before.
Okay. That's
my
fair
heart
enough.
just stopped. Fuck me.
I never had a chance to watch it. I could watch it now.
Let me tell Mr. Mitchell, let me tell you something. Sir, other than regardless, don't watch Modern Product Wrestling for about 4 weeks.
Right.
And no, I'm serious. I'm serious. Go back on WWE Network and watch everything Mid-South you possibly can. Because
I'm sure it's great because I
do
like Southern wrestling.
Oh yeah, I think that you would absolutely, especially if you've never seen it. I think you are going to watch that and you're going to be like, "That's the best wrestling show on TV right now." It's amazing.
What year is it again? Wait a minute.
But so as far as World Class, and again, we're narrowing down the conversation here because you haven't watched Mid-South, but what did you love about World Class and the Von Erichs? I guess we'll elaborate on that.
They were allowing the wrestlers to actually make their story, which a lot of wrestling companies at that time were not. It was basically just come out, cut your promo, go to your match, and walk backstage. From what I've seen with World Class Championship Wrestling, the Freebirds were loved and hated because, of course, they were, from Atlanta and they were in Texas now. And, the Freebirds were allowed to be themselves. Michael P.S. Hayes, the way he cut a promo on the Texas crowd. And the Von Erichs with that wholesome, we love everything Texas attitude. but then they also were bringing in stars from every company when they had downtime or weren't with a company. So it was kind of like an all-star of wrestling.
The original Bullet Club.
Exactly. He's not wrong.
Sorry.
I mean, I wouldn't have thought of it that way. But
that was
Aaron
a dirty joke.
Aaron actually made that. That was a terrible joke he did, Archie.
He's right.
He did a
out.
He did a suicide joke instead of
I get that. I took it the wrong way, though. I thought of it.
Sorry, you can edit that out, Nate.
But my point of the matter is that they were allowing things you would like. There was no way WWF and WCW were ever going to do a joint show, or NWA and WWF. Or there was no way that Mid-South or WCCW were going to, go to territories that these other wrestlers were at and be on a show with them. But in World Class Championship Wrestling, you got to see a Ronnie Garvin come through the territory and have a couple of matches. You got to see a Junkyard Dog pop up every now and then.
Or Flair and Von Erich.
Yeah, right, exactly. And it wasn't just Ric Flair, it was the NWA World Heavyweight Champion Ric Flair, and guess what? Kerry Von Erich is about to wrestle him for that belt, but in a ring that's not the NWA. Mm-hmm. So they were doing things that were more revolutionary for the time frame they were in, but then as they got all of their talent pulled away and they were left with, just the family, it got a little bit in dismay, and nobody really wanted to see it anymore because other companies were coming in.
And I don't want to butt in before it's my turn. But another thing, and you just said revolutionary. I don't think anybody can deny, excuse me, that as far as world class goes, one of the things, and I'm going to spoiler alert, I prefer Mid-South over world class, but.
Okay.
One of the things that World Class got right before even Vince did was the way to record a wrestling television show.
Right.
They nailed down the broadcast, the multiple camera angles and just the way a wrestling show is shot. They really nailed that down. Vince actually stole a lot from their production, values and notes.
Going outside of the ring and doing
vignettes. Yeah.
Vignettes, like Iceman Parsons, breaking the ice blocks.
Or just Gino Hernandez, in the convertible, or coming off the plane.
Bill Mercer going down the water slide, all that shit.
That was my point. The way they told those stories, they didn't have to do that. Their wrestlers probably would have just gotten over on ability.
Well, and the funny thing about that, it was almost out of necessity because they had so much a smaller roster.
Right.
Than other promotions did.
But then they were also borrowing from other promotions that gave you that pop. You know what I mean? It was like, oh, tonight only we're going to have Ric Flair on the show, right, that people would tune in. It gave them a reason to watch. Wrestling doesn't do that anymore. You get 3 weeks in advance notice. Oh, The Rock is going to be here on February 22nd. And then if you're busy on February 22nd, you're like, oh, fuck it, I'll DVR it.
David Gold.
You already know my answer.
I do, but let's do it anyway.
Everybody knows what David Gold's going to say because there's one person who was one of the head guys of Mid-South Wrestling, and that was Ted DiBiase, right?
Right. That's the only thing I know about Mid-South. I will say that. I know Ted DiBiase was there.
You had such, and this is just going off the top of my head, you had such matches as Andre the Giant, Dusty Rhodes, and Junkyard Dog versus Afa, Sika, Ernie Ladd. That's just one match.
Wow.
Think of those guys I just named, right? DiBiase, Paul Orndorff, Jake the Snake Roberts. I could go on Hacksaw Jim Duggan, Shawn Michaels, Magnum TA, the Midnight Express. Just the Butch Reed, just the names. The Rock and Roll Express was there. Jim Cornette, Dr. Death.
One Man Gang.
You had the Blade Runners. You had. I could just go on and on about the guys, but honestly, P.S. Hayes was there, right? Bam Bam Gordy. Just the names and the in-ring work and how Cornette is so It's just the old school wrestling. Both of them are great. It's hard to choose, that's for sure. But the in-ring work that you got, like, this is bar none some of the best in-ring work that you have. And Vince basically like picked and took all the talent from Mid-South, So, I mean, that's my choice all day, just from the in-ring perspective. Yes, there was, the other promotion had some stuff that was before its time and so on and so forth. They're both amazing. You can't really say bad things about either, but I'm going to go at Mid-South.
One of the greatest angles ever in wrestling is Magnum TA and Mr. Wrestling 2.
Wow, I didn't even know about that.
It is the mentor.
Wow.
It is the mentor-student angle done to perfection.
Well, I know what I'll be doing tonight after we're done with the podcast.
And when you get a chance, Archie, you need to see also. There's a match on there. It's Ted DiBiase and Matt Bourne, and we all know what Matt Bourne was doing, right? But Matt Bourne.
I mean, that's not Evan Bourne's older brother?
Fucking amazing in the ring, and then those two face Andre the Giant and Tony Atlas in a tag match.
Wow.
It's just a great match, bar none. And this is when Andre was in way better shape, right? Because this is 83. So Andre can move around the ring, and he's doing shit that he didn't do in WWF, So, I mean, it's just, you just got to watch it. And I think your opinion might change a little bit.
Oh, it definitely will. It definitely will.
Well, I mean, it's like I said, my opinion is only based on because I've never watched anything of theirs. Everybody who ever got like the World Wrestling Almanac for wrestling would see the notes of who was champion there and who, feuds and things. That's all I could really base my knowledge of it on. I knew DiBiase was there, of course. I knew Andre popped in, but I never knew about what's going on. So, yeah, I have to check it out now. And, yeah, my opinion may change.
Now, Aaron, I know your opinion, but our listeners do not. What is better, Mid-South or World Class? And that will be how we wrap it up here tonight.
Oh, you got to do one more question.
No, I don't.
But whatever.
No, I don't.
That's your choice, man.
The brotherhood, you got to love it.
Mid-South. I think Mid-South was better.
I feel bad being left out now. I'm sorry.
I think World Class, I shouldn't say thought, but I think World Class over time became kind of a one-trick pony. And I'm not as fond of, and I'm not saying they're bad, none of them are bad, but I'm not as fond of the Von Erichs as everybody else is. That's just my opinion. I think Mid-South had better athletes and better wrestlers, and and I'm not even saying Mid-South was my favorite territory promotion, but I just think that Mid-South was better.
All right. Now, that being said, we're going to wrap up this edition of the We Can't Wrestle podcast. David Gold, thank you for joining us. The Asylum Facebook group, which I am an admin of and a greatly appreciative member of. If you are a collector, if you're just a wrestling fan, come on in, join the Asylum.
If you want to see Nate win a dozen raffles in a row, just join, because he's been on a roll the last couple of weeks.
This week. Now,
if you are a human person,
let's not talk about May.
Join.
Let's not talk about May, because that'll be bad all around. That's how it usually goes for me. It's a month of crap, and then I win like a ton of shit for a week.
I don't know how any of these raffles work. Like, Archie, you'll tag me in something. I'm like, I don't know what's going on.
Have I tagged you? I didn't even know.
Yeah.
I think you know what it is? I go to tag Nate, and then I click your name by mistake, and I don't realize I didn't.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm just like, Archie wants me to do something, but I don't know.
Nate's got all those Fury Unmatched figures coming. That's awesome.
Yeah, that was a big raffle Nate hit.
You guys are talking Dutch, man. I don't know what you're saying.
Well,
one day I'm going to tag Aaron in the raffle, and all I'm going to see in the comments is "fuck you," and that's it.
Like, no, it's like I don't know what's happening.
He'll say close it, and you'll PM him and go, all right, $100, and he'll go, what the fuck did I close?
Aaron,
Like, I'll just buy the shit with my own money.
Aaron, if you don't know what's going on, let me do what I'm doing here and let David talk about the asylum for a moment.
That was Nate's nice way of saying, Aaron, shut the fuck up.
No, we knew that. We understood.
So the asylum is a community of brotherhood. Archie and Nate are both admins in that group. I like how Nate forgot about that and said he was a member. He's also an admin.
No, he said he was an admin, though, too.
In the asylum. Just want to make sure I threw that on in the pot there. But it's a community, and we happen to do events on the page, and we do a lot of free stuff, and people get a lot of free stuff, right? So,
yep.
But we look at it more as a community to escape, get away from the thoughts and the crap that's going on around us, and just enjoy the hell out of wrestling. And there's a lot of sexy figures, and I say sexy, I'm not using that loosely. A lot of sexy figures on the page, and we do put them up in events. And to Aaron's point, not everybody knows exactly what an event is. And basically, not everyone joins an event. I mean, we have almost 2,400 members now, and of those 2,400 members, I'd say maybe 40% of them join our events, and that's okay.
Yep.
We're not really here to... We do the events because, one, we enjoy them. Two, we want people to win stuff. You can win. And Aaron, how it works is we do a number of spots, right? Like, let's say it's 50 spots. We do $2 a spot. So the figure's worth $100 or whatever the case may be. Let's say you go and say, I want 2 spots.
Not my spot.
What's that?
It's not my spot. It's not my spot.
Not a liver spot.
Not your spot.
Not your liver spot.
Not my dog spot.
No, not a dog spot. It's an event spot.
Sorry,
and if you could put in $4 and win yourself a $100 figure.
And I can attest to David Ken and Nate Ken. We have put in little or nothing in to some of the biggest things we have in our collection. You know what I mean? So you got a chance at winning a $100 figure for $6, and now you're just it saves you money and it makes you get something you thought you'd never have.
Now, to the other side of that coin. You don't always win, right?
Right.
It's a you're taking a shot. You're taking a
chance.
Yeah.
I haven't won in a month.
So you do lose some money too, but it's fun as
hell.
So
it's like the drawing at the Legion.
Right.
I understand that.
It's like
you got to put it in small town person perspective.
It's like bingo.
So it's just a community. It's a great place to be.
But it's not even just it's not even just the events. Not to cut David off. We have guys on there who might be from across the pond in Europe that couldn't get a particular figure or belt or accessory there in Europe. So they may trade with somebody who lives in Newark, New Jersey. And now 2 guys who barely knew each other made a friendship because they helped each other out. You know what I mean?
I want to let I'm not trying to cut you off, Archie, but I want to let everybody know that Archie and David are 2 very, very, very good friends of mine that I have never met in person. Because of this group, because of these groups,
right?
I've never met Archie, and I've known him for almost 3 years.
Almost 3 years, and we met because of a figure. He saw something I made, which that was when I was at the beginning of customizing. And he's like, "I like that," and I'm like, "Thanks." And the next thing I knew, we were joking and cracking up, and I needed something, he needed something, whatever. We said. David surprised me for my birthday and sent me a Macho Man Slim Jim figure and a bunch of Lucy's, and I was like, "Wow." And to Nate's point, complete stranger, never met him, but we're that close that we send each other birthday, Christmas presents. If we're sick or we don't feel well, it's a community because you're making a friendship and a bond with somebody that, even though you've never seen them face to face, you understand what they're going through, what they're doing, and what they might need. So you look out for them.
And Archie's being modest. It might have started off a figure, but it really launched when we would lose a lot of events together and just bitch to one another in private messages about how much we lose. And then it got even more insane when I would have a figure for sale and all right, I want 25 ship. How about 15? How about 18? How about 19? 19, 20.
David used to tell me that I haggled like the guy on Pawn Stars. You know what I mean? I would always lowball him, and I wasn't trying to. I was new to collecting. I didn't know what some certain things were. And he would always be like, dude, do you have to haggle over $4? And I'm like, I don't know.
He did it every fucking time.
Best I can do is $350. Best I can do is $350.
Yeah, I need 22 ship. David, will you take 18? Really, dude? $4 is going to
eventually I would get pissed and go, fuck it, fine, $18. And he's like, yes.
But a lot of times I'd give him exactly what he was asking to, and vice versa. He would do the same with me.
So it's just a fun place to be. It's not just about the events. We have them, we run them for other guys and gals for good causes too. Like if someone's struggling really bad, or there was a guy
or for Nate who couldn't do it if he's to save his life.
we ran a nice Bam Bam, and Magic Man helped us out with that. John Majewski helped us with that. Ran your Bam Bam and your what was it?
Mr.
Perfect. And then I ran your graded. Was it a graded taker?
That graded taker was awesome, Nate.
So, I mean, that's the asylum. Get your asses in there if you're not already.
Here's the thing also, one last thing. We make these relationships, and then we come to find out about hardships from the people that we make these relationships with. David and I had a very close friend of ours named Rex Backus pass away last year. And having never met this man, mind you, again, face to face, but talking to him nightly and speaking with him and seeing what kind of great person he was because of what he did for children's hospitals and homeless people and everybody he was helping. When Rex passed, David and I were both shook. So were a lot of other people. And because of that, friends of ours like Rocky Turner and the Nerd Closet started the Rex movement to help, people who needed things. And that, again, it goes without saying, you see so much generosity in these groups, like guys who never met anybody. It's a brand new guy, and he's like, hi, I'm new here. And then all of a sudden, 3 days later, somebody wins a raffle, and like, hey, send the new guy that thing. I don't want it. You know what I mean?
A perfect testament to that, Archie, is this week in the We Can't Wrestle podcast. I had the contest to give away the free stuff, and Leonard Mitchell won the contest. And when I told him, hey, buddy, you won the contest, he said, so who was the first loser in We Can't Shuffle tonight? Andrew Palmer. Send Andrew Palmer my win. I mean, it is the in the asylum.
Ain't nobody sent me shit.
That's not true.
Aaron, what you want, bro?
That's not true. I just sent you a figure last week.
Just real quick, just to speak on that. The funniest going on the Rex thing. One, I have a giant ass poster of Rex on my wall. That should show you how fucking amazing Rex was.
Rocky Turner made that.
Yep,
so it's amazing.
He made one for me too, and we called him Sexy Rexy, and it was acceptable. How many guys do you call sexy, right? But number two, just to kind of speak on that a little bit, on the giveaway portion or what have you, Rex was an amazing person, and I don't know if you knew him very well, Nate, but he was a really amazing guy, and him and I would sit for hours. I got him hooked on Classic Jacks. He loved the fuck out of those, and I would order him things like just random Classic Jacks and send it to him. But just to speak on that story, I sent Rex because he was furloughed or whatever the case may be, right? Because he wasn't doing well, and I sent him $50 because I wanted to be nice and I thought it was the right thing to do. But Rex wasn't struggling like that. Rex had money. He was very smart with his money.
Yes, he was.
And he sent me back $50, and I sent it back to him. And he said, and then he sent me back $100, $50 more. And he said, if you send me this money back again, I'm going to come there and kick your ass.
Yep.
And he was serious. And I kept that $100.
Yeah,
because I knew no matter, even if he was sick, he could still kick my ass.
I'll never forget the reason he and I got close, David. It wasn't about figures or money or anything like that. He had an argument with another friend of ours, and he left the group chat. And 10 minutes later, I messaged him, and I'm like, "You okay?" He's like, "This, that," and he's venting. And then all of a sudden, he let out, and I realized, okay, this is not. He's hurt. He's upset. He's like, and why the fuck did of all people you come to check on me? Why aren't any of them checking on me? And I'm like, dude, because I care. And after that, it was like a constant, like by 2 a.m., if I was up, I knew Rex was about to message me just to say what's up and ask how my day was. You know what I mean? Or vice versa. At 1:30, 2 o'clock in the morning, I'd message him. And we'd talk about wrestling because he was a professional wrestler. He worked, at GCW and other companies. We'd talk about wrestling. I'd make a joke that I wanted to manage him. He said, yeah, get me dates in New Jersey, and I'll gladly let you bring me to the ring.
Well, he was going to start my training. I was supposed to go and fly down and meet him because I was going to start training to get in the ring, actually, and believe it or not. And he was going to start training me and stuff and getting me on the right track on what I should eat and stuff because he was very good with what he ate.
He helped me with my back problems, and when they first started, he was trying to help me out and tell me what to take and do. And I like I said, when we lost him, it was like losing a brother. Even though we never met him, even though we were not face to face with him at any point in time, the whole wrestling community went, "Wow, that really hurt. That was not something we were prepared for." And the funny thing is that day that I found out at 9 a.m, I messaged him, "Hey, buddy, how you feeling?" Because he was doing bad. And then about 4:30, 5 o'clock in the afternoon, I got word that he passed, and I went, Jesus Christ, that was my last message to him. Hey, buddy, how are you doing? You know what I mean? And it's just a pure testament of what this is. It's not toys. It's not raffles. It's a bunch of guys and girls, believe it or not. There are women in these groups.
It's not
hanging out.
It's not toys. It's not raffles. It's not podcasts. It's community. Right. It's communities.
It's communities. This is social distancing at its finest. It's a bunch of people around the world talking to each other over the phone, on live stream, on podcasts, and cracking up because, well, we have no one else right now, so might as well have somebody.
We were already social distancing. What you talking about?
Mm-hmm. You got damn right.
I'm saying. Ain't nobody wanting to be around me.
The best story I have, though,
I'm absolutely terrible in person.
When it comes to me preferring the wrestling group friends that I have as opposed to friends or family that I have sometimes, WrestleMania last year, I was meeting up with guys from other groups, and we were all going to, tailgate and meet up for a couple of days beforehand and do things. My brother's like, hey, do you want to go to TNA? They're having that Impact pay-per-view in Rahway. I'm like, no, I'm going to meet up with guys from the wrestling group. Why don't you come with me? And my own brother literally told me, you're a sellout, F you, and hung up, and we didn't talk for a week.
Jesus.
And I went to Mania with my group friends, as opposed to my brother, who was supposed to go with me. He went with somebody else. And I went, wow, that should show me that maybe certain people care about me more than my own flesh and blood.
That would that would never happen to me because I have to, I don't know.
You have to drive.
I have to drive.
Speaking of that, we were at the. I don't know if Aaron knows, but we actually, Nick and myself were lucky enough to go spend some time with a couple group members, and we got to do a table with Hacksaw and Buff. And Buff's like, y'all are going to take me out to the ring tonight. I'm going to do an independent show. We're like,
yeah, that was cool.
Expect that. And
that was cool.
He told us what to do. We did that, and the fans were cheering. We were surprised. They didn't know who the fuck we were, but we were doing the NWO sign, all that stuff. And me and Nick are outside the ring finally when it's time to start leaving. This guy comes up and goes, hey, y'all are Nick and Dave from the Asylum. And we're like, what the fuck? Like, well,
how do you know us?
He didn't even know the guy. And it's like, he's like, oh, yeah, I'm in the Asylum. I'm in that group. And we're like, we're fucking famous, man. So, it's just, it's not just that group. It's in a community of groups.
It's an ego boost sometimes. You realize you realize that maybe you're not insignificant sometimes.
It's a good feeling. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of groups out there. The We Can't Wrestle group, the Nerd Closet, your new custom group.
Yep.
It's all connected, and that's how we we want to look at it as. And we know there are other groups out there that basically want to compete and have all this competition and don't really care to mingle or be friends with one another, but that's not what we want in our group in the Asylum or in y'all's groups or any groups that we're close with. We want to all help one another and do for one another and show the love and support that we have.
If one grows, everybody has to grow, because if only one is growing, then everybody else looks weird. Like, why is that one group showing more?
I told my wife the other day, I said, it is very cool to me how many common members the Asylum World Championship Customs and We Can't Wrestle have. It's
right.
I love it. It's a community. I absolutely love it. I think we are building something that is amazing. And Archie, David, Aaron, everybody involved in all of the groups and podcasts. Damn.
Now, if we can all just get fucking rich with it too, right? No.
Well, there's a way.
That's what, at the end of the day, like, why do people want to argue with each other and be like, oh, you know, it's like none of us are fucking making money off of, like, I mean, some of us might be making money, but none of us are like, you know, paying off our cars. Man.
Right.
Yeah, we ain't the $1 million fake, you know. We ain't losing we ain't paying off our cars and shit.
We certainly ain't Zack Ryder.
Yeah, half of us.
Oh, I knew that was coming.
More than half of us probably ain't even wearing pants. You know
I have shorts on.
I'm not wearing pants. I'm not
you never wear pants, David.
You were on Pornhub before you got on here.
Right. I have
That's
to
why I
pee.
was so shocked when Nate called. I had to put it away. It was like, hello.
Oh.
What's up? I'm up.
Pornhub is like Netflix right now. David, are you still there? Do you want to continue watching?
And I got Disney Plus up in the other tab just in case, like, you know, if someone wants to visit, like I exit out. Look, I was watching Disney Plus, I swear.
Yeah, but wait a minute. Pantsless, and no, I don't think that's a good thing to be watching when you're pantsless.
When Moana grew up, I'm just saying.
It's like, are you still watching Wizards of Waverly Place?
Jasmine from Aladdin, I'm just saying, bro. I mean...
Okay, so hold on. Big reveal. I am gonna name this episode 94. Are you still watching Wizards of Waverly Place?
Oh Lord.
Oh God. Oh my God. Okay.
I'm just glad that's something that popped fucking Archie.
Fuck, I'm out of emails again. Damn it.
Well, join the contest, buddy.
Yeah.
Nate, let me borrow your email, bro. You're like, I'm unsure what I'm going to get in my spam box now. Fuck.
No, Nate is like, I used all my emails too.
Yeah.
I think Spam Box is the title of one of the...
Hey, I can't help that I'm the king of social distancing. I'm just saying.
Oh man, are you still watching Wizards of Waverly Place? I'm never gonna look at that show the same again.
Nope. I don't think any of us are.
Nope. Aaron just changed me for life.
All right, as the executive producer of this show, it is my job to reel this shit in. David, we elaborated on the Asylum. Archie, real quick about World Championship Customs, sir.
It's a growing community. In the last 4 weeks, we've added almost 500 members. We have a bunch of incredible customizers such as CJ Anderson, Scott Burnett, Daniel Ariola, and a bunch of up-and-comers as well. Who are just getting into it. And the fun thing about it is you got guys asking, like, what paint do you use? Or what head should I use for this? And people are there to help, and actually give them tricks of the trade, as opposed to a guy being like, I ain't helping this guy. I want to do my thing. You know, everybody's willing to be helpful. And like David said, like Nate said, it's everybody's growing together. WCC, Nerd Closet, and the Asylum and We Can't Wrestle podcast are all working hand in hand so that we can all have a community where these people will feel like, oh, well, I'm going to get scammed for this, or I'm going to get, they're not going to feel that way. They're going to feel like I belong here. So.
Absolutely.
And just one more quick shout out to my admin team that brought me on to WCC, Nick Law, Rocky Turner, Bobby Anders, and Josh Blevins. one of the best teams I've ever worked with before. It's just 5 guys having fun all day long and then going, okay, what are we doing next?
And Rocky is sending me 4 really cool fucking posters this week. So.
Yeah, you won those yesterday.
Yes, I did.
It's the Nate Maxon Tour 2020.
Absolutely. And so here's my thing, people. I had David Gold to speak. Listen, on this show, I had David Gold to speak for the attributes of the asylum. I had the ever so eloquent Archie Mitchell to speak for the attributes of
everywhere.
World Championship Customs, and everywhere he is a member of a board member there. So what I'm left with is my brother.
Oh, goddamn. Ain't nothing gonna be eloquent.
To speak eloquently about the attributes of the We Can't Wrestle. Well, you're listening to the show, but we want you to join the group. So, Aaron, you actually, for the first time ever, not me, get to end the We Can't Wrestle podcast.
Oh, no.
And tell our listeners about our group and why it is so fucking great.
Well, the main reason it's fucking great is because I'm part of it. But other than that, like, what you guys need to do is you need to be... See, I don't want to talk about it. It's hard to put into words how awesome the We Can't Wrestle podcast and the We Can't Wrestle podcast Facebook group is. And more people need to contribute to it and talk about it and be on it, because it doesn't just need to be about wrestling. You guys can post whatever you want on there. We're not going to say, don't post porn. But, whatever you want.
Damn it. I'm making a mistake.
David, I'm deleting your post right now. Don't worry about it.
Okay. But, see, I'm not an eloquent person, Nate. I'm not a salesman.
Keep speaking the way you were. You're perfect.
Basically, it's a group where you guys can feel free to say whatever you want. You're not going to be judged. You're not going to have somebody tell you, oh, you're stupid or you're wrong or whatever.
I know I said it was just you, but I'm going to butt in.
Thank you, because I'm not good at this.
In our group, you can say, post, and express any opinion you absolutely want to. Unless it is racist, bigoted, that is it. Other than that, I'm not going to delete anything. If you're a racist piece of shit,
you'll be blocked.
Please leave. But other than that...
I didn't even think that needed to be said when I said post whatever you want.
It does.
So I can post pictures of me reading the Playboy magazines from the 90s?
Yes. Just
just
scrub out the nipples, and I think it'll be okay.
You know why I hated Playboys? They had too many damn articles.
David's like, I don't want to read an interview with Ralph Nader.
No, I want fucking pictures.
I want to be a masturbator.
Just to chime in, because I've been a member of the We Can't Wrestle podcast group for quite some time. I only just became an admin like 2 weeks ago.
Damn, you're an admin every fucking where.
Everywhere.
I said earlier in the show, David, before you joined us, I said Archie's on more board of directors than Bill Gates.
Well, okay, I'll phrase it this way, and then everybody can say what they want to say. The We Can't Wrestle podcast does not discriminate. It doesn't care who you are, where you're from, what you do, your social income, your social standings. Just come in, be a decent person, have a great opinion, and don't be a dick.
And Aaron won't make fun of you that much.
And I will make fun of you, and you can make fun of me as much as you want. Dish it out as good as we dish it out, and you're perfectly fine. And the best thing about it is the fact that I will put up random fucking episodes of wrestling, and y'all can watch along.
Right.
Which not enough people are doing yet. I don't know why.
We'll get it there.
We need some people watching fucking wrestling.
But to Aaron's point, to put it in more layman's terms, there may be somebody named Karen in our group, but there aren't any Karens in our group. No one's going to pick on you just because you offended their beliefs for that 24-hour period of time. As long as you're a decent person, you're more than welcome to do whatever you'd like in the group. And on a side note, Aaron is still watching Wizards of Waverly play.
I didn't at the time, but Selena Gomez grew up into a nice-looking woman. Just saying.
That was rough. I think that might need to be edited out, but who am I to say?
She grew up right. She grew up right.